Heidi ho, my crafty friends. This is Lori at the Ladybug Journals, and I want to welcome you to a special edition of, well, I don't really know what to call it, you guys. We are going to make this beautiful journal. Here, let me bring you up here a little bit so you can see what I'm doing. We are going to take this beautiful book. It's a book that was published in, I think it says 1941. No. Is it 1911? Let me see here. I think it's 1911. I'm sorry. And in 1911, down here, it says 1911. And we are going to turn it into a beautiful journal. Now, it's got this pebbled, I think it's leather, cover to it. And it's called Heart Throbs. Now, and it's called The Old Scrapbook down here on the bottom. And Pam at the Paper Outpost did something very similar to this. And actually, I watched her do this 2 years ago. And she was the one that inspired me to do journals out of books. Up until then, I had only done them out of, like I do my beginner journals, out of cardstock and things like that. My journals that are not with hardcover books. So I thought that, and I've had this book for a very long time. And after I saw her do this, I went to a secondhand store and I bought an old book, and I was in contact with her and I followed along with her, but it wasn't in this book. It took me a while to find a book like this. And then after I found it, it was like, oh gosh, I don't want to tear this book up. It's beautiful. So I've had this book for probably a year and a half, maybe even to 2 years. And I finally decided, yeah, it's just not doing anything sitting on the shelf. It's just sitting there deteriorating. So it's time to create a journal with it. And then this book will be sold on my private site when we're finished, if I can actually part with it. It'll be sold on my private site, and I'll give you that information after we finish with it. But I wanted to share with you how I create journals step by step. Because since December, we have so many new subscribers. And I went actually back to my analytics page, and we have 10 new subscribers. So I want to welcome all of you. Welcome, all 10 of you new subscribers with a great big ladybug flutter. And I know I've said hello to you in recent videos, but I wanted to be able to go with you step by step in how I create journals. Now, this book is very old, so the paper is very soft and it has a very different feel to it. But what this book is, it's a book of prose and verse, and the people that submitted to it were eligible to win a $10,000 prize. And they submitted their work. Let me show this to you here, to the Chapel Publishing Company of Boston, Massachusetts. And then the winner won money. Now, back in 1911, $10,000 was a lot of money. And there's some beautiful, beautiful artwork in here that, we're going to use. This one is one of my favorites right here. It is just one of my very favorites. Now, this book belonged to a Mr. Fred Farley. And when I opened the book, the fly leaves came out of it. So we're going to use these to cover the insides of here, like that. And we're going to use them on the back. But we're going to use some of this artwork and some of the poetry that's in here. Now, And then we're also going to use some of the forward tells you about the contest that went on. And here's the signature, the stamp signature of the company. And it tells you about Heart Throbs and how it went about. Now, this is the second edition book. So there was another book that came. This is volume 2. There was another book that came out with even more. So many people sent in their work that, they had to have 2 of them. So, and I know we're going to be keeping this one, The Heart of Friendship. We're going to be keeping that. And I already know how we're going to display that beautiful verse. And then there's also some other ones in here that I want to keep. So there are some beautiful poems in here, along with the artwork. And here's another one. Here's another piece of the artwork. And as you go through, you'll see some different pieces of artwork through here, and the poems and the there's like, they're not short stories, but they're just different types of verses that are in here that you could use in your book. Now, if you don't have this book, that's okay. Do like I did and just grab a book and make it your first attempt at making a book, a book that you do. If you've never made a journal from a book, this is a great time to do that, because we're going to take this slow and easy, and that way you'll have an opportunity to go step by step with this. And because I'm not going to rush through it, and I'm not going to say, as you all have seen me before, like I've done before, I'm going to take you step by step so that you can see how I do step by step, how I measure and how I figure things out. And apparently Fred, this must have been his poem, or a poem that he liked, because he tore that one out. And we are going to use some of these other pages in our journal for pockets and things like that. So, do some things like that, and grab you a book, and I'll tell you the size of this book here in just a minute, that, maybe isn't as old as this one, but that's okay, because the one that I did, the very first one I did, wasn't this old. It was a newer book. But if you're going to do that, let me show you what to look for if you're going to the secondhand store. You don't want one that is sewn against the spine. You want one that is easy to take apart. You want one that is, like if that's attached, you want one that you can stick your finger down in the back. So you want one that has the spacing between the back, between the book block and back here. Okay, so you want to be able to find a book that you can stick your finger back here. Okay, so you don't want one that's glued against your spine. Let me show you the difference. Here's a book. Here's this book. Okay, this is a newer book. Okay, see, this book is not glued against the spine. So this isn't an old book. Okay, that book is not glued against the spine. See what I mean? Right there, it's not glued against the spine. Whereas, let me find one that is here. This book, that book is. See it? It's glued against the spine. So if I were to try and take that apart, see how it's glued against the spine back there? I can't get anything back there. See it? Back here. I can't get anything back here. Right here. Because my spine and my book block are glued together. Right there. See the difference? So you want something that looks like this. That looks like that. Okay? So when you're looking for a book in your secondhand stores, you want something that isn't glued to the spine. Okay? And that will help you in taking it apart. It'll be a lot easier for you. Okay, now since this is an old book, it's pretty much coming apart for me, so this is not going to be difficult. And if you happen to come across an old book, and I don't even think I'm going to need that big knife. I can use this knife. If you happen to come across an old book, that's even better, because they're usually pretty easy. So I'm going to take my ruler, and this is how I do it. Now, let me lift you back up here so I'm not sticking you in the face. Now, I always stick my ruler down the back like this, because I want to protect I always want to protect my spine from my knife, okay? And I want to take the blade of my knife and I want to take it away from here. So I want to point it toward my book block. Okay, so when I cut through here, I'm very gently cutting. See that tape right there? Can you see that right there? That's the binding tape that they use to hold that together. That's what I'm cutting. And I'm just very gently cutting that. And as I cut it, I'm up against the book block. I'm not up against the spine area. I'm up against the book block. And I'm keeping my my ruler up against the spine. Okay. And my knife is still up against my book block, because I don't want it to cut my spine. Now, if you do happen to slip and cut your spine, no worries. We can fix that. And I did that on my very first one. I cut it. I sliced it right down here at the bottom. And no worries, I fixed it. So don't worry if you do. Don't panic. You can still use the book. Okay, now turn it over. And you're going to do the same thing on the back. You're going to put your ruler back in. Except now it's going to be easier because you... Okay, now see, I've got it up against this part of my spine, and I'm just cutting this. See that? See that mesh tape? That's what I'm cutting. And I'm still up against the book block. I don't want to cut that beautiful, I don't want to cut this beautiful book. Now, I can stand it up. Nope, just like that. I can stand it up. And sometimes it'll just pull away. There we go. Now, it's completely away. And as you can tell, it's wiggly jiggly. Okay. Now, inspect it on the front. Make sure that there's, no slits. Do you need to repair anything? Okay. Now, I have a mess on my desk here. I need to wipe that down. But I always have a mess on my desk. So, before we do anything else, let's wipe this off. And let's wipe off the desk, because you don't want to get this mess into our next step. Okay? So, we're going to wipe this off. Okay. Now, we need to support this spine. So, let me bring you down here so you can see what I'm doing. Let me make sure you can see me. Okay, so we need to support this because this is a little wiggly. Okay, now I have a little bit here and here that needs taking care of. See this paper here that's coming apart? So I'm going to use my Fabri-Tac here and very gently, see this paper is just coming apart. I'm going to put a little bit of Fabri-Tac under here, and I'm going to take my finger and I'm going to rub it out. I'm just going to rub it out just very gently. And I want to put that down just very gently. Just a teeny tiny bit is all I used. Now over here, I don't want that. So I'm going to take my little knife, my little tiny knife, and I'm just going to trim that. So I'm just holding it up with my fingers, and I'm just trimming that off. And that piece there is okay. Okay, now to support this, to give me some support right here, okay, see, it's all wiggly. Okay, I'm going to add some tape in here. And I am just going to use, let me close my glue back up here. I am just going to use my clear duct tape. Can you see inside the duct? It says clear, it's just duct tape, but it's clear. And you can see all the little ribs that make duct tape. And I'm going to run it from the top of this. Hold on, let me show you. I'm going to run it from the top of this red right here to the bottom of here. So only this red inlay part is where I'm running it, okay? And I'm going to overlap it on both sides. And that will give me some support. Now, I have the edge folded over so that it doesn't stick to it. So I'm going to have to cut that off. Okay, so we're going to take that off. And I'm going to do 50-50 on this. I'm just going to kind of go half here. I'm going to run it down. And then I'm going to bring it to the bottom of it. Come on. There. And I want it to go there. So I want it to come all the way up here. Now I will link Pam's videos for this. Okay. So if you want to watch her making of her journal, you can do that. I enjoy watching hers several times. It reminds me of how I got started in this business. Okay, now before I put my tape away, I always fold the edge under because this is extremely sticky tape. There, see, I folded my edge under. Now, I'm done with my tape. So, I'm going to fold that down. And then I'm going to take my bone folder and I'm going to rub my edges in to the fold. Okay, now that already feels a little bit better. Not 100%, but a little bit. And I'm going to make sure that it's stuck down completely because I want it stuck down all the way. And you can tell when it's stuck down because the color is completely down. So I want to make sure it's stuck down all the way. Even in the middle. I want to make sure everything is down. Okay, this is important because this is going to support everything. Okay, Now we're going to have 4 signatures in this book. So now you need to measure. Now you need to make some notes, because now's the easiest time to do it. So get out a notepad, get out a sticky pad, get out a piece of paper, get out anything you want. Now's the time to measure. So you're going to measure underneath that red part, okay? Or just take your book block. That's the easiest part. Now, these pieces right here that are sticking up on the book block, right here, these little pieces of fabric, these are called headbands. Now, I keep these because I'm going to use these on my book. So I'm going to take these. Oh, this one's quite bitter. I mean, not bitter, blitter. Shoot! It's not blitter either. It's brittle. Well, that didn't come out right, did it? And I'm going to take it off. I guess I'm going to have to make new ones because this one, this one's torn. All right, well, we're going to make new ones. So I'm going to get my fabric out. Oh, my goodness sakes. Okay, well, these are called headbands. And if you look at your book block, you can see how your book was made. See all the little tiny signatures in it? And if you open it up, let's see, if you can find the middle, you can see, let's see here. If you can find the middle of a signature, you can see, sometimes you can see the strings. There. If you can find the middle of a signature, you can find the strings where they tied it. Let me see if I can show you on this book. There. See the strings right there? Right there. So this one has 4 strings. So they used 4 strings to tie each of these tiny signatures in. And then they used that tape, and they glued that tape, and then they glued the book block, and then the book block was glued, and then it was, and then those headbands were put. And that was the only thing holding this together. And then what was holding it in the book were these. Then these were placed like this, like that. And then these went around, and then they were attached to the front and back. That was the only thing holding it in the book. So this was free. Okay, so now let's get back to measuring. So we're going to measure, okay, down here and up here, you can see I have, let's measure the book block. I think the book block is easier. I'm going to measure my book block. Now, on your rulers, you have, let's find the inch side. That's the wrong side, Lori. You have that little, you have that little mark that is, not really part that's to be measured. So I'm going to not count that, and then I'm going to measure down. That's going to give me my length. So if I measure the length of my book, now I'm measuring my book block. Okay. So I'm just measuring the book block, and then I'm going to write it down. So let me get my pencil here. Oops, I'm sorry, I bumped you. So, length. So I can write it down. 7. Let me make sure I've got it up right. Oh, there he goes. Okay, so it's 7 3/4. And now let's go for the width. Now I'm just measuring the width because that's the first thing that we're going to do. Oh, there's the mail. Hopefully she'll deliver today. Yesterday she didn't. Okay, I'm pooching. Okay, so one. Hold on, I'm pooching out here. I need to hold it flat. 1.5. Let me get my little one here. There. That's better. I am 1.5 inches wide. Okay, so that tells me, there's my measurements right there. So that tells me my book block, okay? So now I know what I have to work with. Hold on just a second, you guys. Okay, door's closed. Okay, so that tells me the measurements that we have to work with. Okay, so now, to add a little more support, we're going to add some fabric on the inside. Now we need to. Now I need to make a decision. So I want to use these fly papers, and by fly papers I mean they're the pages that were on top like that. That, if you'll remember, I told you they just fell out. And there was one in the front, and there was one in the back like that. Okay? And you guys can't see anything, can you? Hold on. What in the world? Oh, it's the mail lady. I'm sorry, it's the mail lady. I think she's trying to get maneuvered in the snow. We woke up to 15 below today, you guys. I feel bad for the mail people today. So I need to decide, do I want this to go first? To go down first, like this. To go like this. And then have the fabric go over. Now I'll have to trim off some of the fabric. Or put the fabric down and then have the paper go over. I think I want to put the paper down first and then have the fabric hang over. I'm not going to see much of the fabric because, you know, here's the middle. Here's the middle of it. But I will see some of it. So I think that's what I'm going to do. But because I like the little gold. It's got golds and kind of tans and browns. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I think I'm going to put the papers down first. And I'm going to use Fabri-Tac on it because the papers are so old. And let me make sure you all can see what I'm doing here. Okay, you can. Now I'm only taking it up to the edge here. And then I'm going to spread it out. Oops, I'm sorry. My chair's scooting. I don't want to fall on the floor. And I'm going to try not to, in decorating our book, I'm going to try not to. I'm really going to try hard not to over-decorate the book. Since it's going to be sold. That way, whoever buys it can decorate it all they want. But there will be some goodies with it, so they can decorate it. Now I'm going to pull my sleeve up here and spread this out. think I need a little bit more right here. Okay, now let's start on this side. Let's get this down. Now, this journal will be in several short videos that will give everything time to dry. And for those of you that want to follow along, it will give you an opportunity to follow along in your journals and get everything. Boy, Fred wanted to make sure that we knew this was his, didn't he? All right, let's get this smooshed out here. Now, if you don't like Fabri-Tac or you don't use Fabri-Tac, you can also use your any of your PVA white glues. I would use, but they will take a little bit longer to dry. And they may, if your book is old like mine, they may wrinkle some of your pages. So I probably would use, hold on a second, you all know I can't talk and do pages straight at the same time. There we go. I'm sorry, you all know I can't do something straight and talk at the same time. It just doesn't work. So if that's the case, then I would probably use something like a, I would experiment after you take your pages out. Before you start using them in your book, I would, working in your book, I would experiment. Take a few of those pages and experiment with your glues. See which one works the best. See if your Fabri-Tac works or your white PVA glue works. See which one works best on your pages before you start on your book. That's what I would do. Oops, the doodles. And don't do what I just did. Don't take a little tear and make it worse. There. Okay, luckily the fabric's going to cover that. Okay, now I have my fabric here. Now, I only want it to go from there to there, but I am going to put my little headphones, or not my headphones, oh my gosh, not my headphones, my headbands up here at the top. So, and I just need a little piece to do that with. So, let's just use that little piece. And let's cut that and see if that's going to be long enough. And we're going to put this underneath here. And I want the little fritzy parts sticking out. Now, you don't have to use fabric. I have used before lace. And you know what? Since this is kind of a little prissy book. Maybe we'll use lace. Let's see. Oh, here's some heart lace. Let's see if that works. Now that would work better at the bottom, wouldn't it? Let's see at the bottom. Let's see how that works at the bottom. Oh, that looks cute at the bottom. But that won't work very well at the top because they'll be upside down. Okay. And I don't like the white. All right, what about this one? Okay, this one would be good. Let's use this one. All right, let's put that one in there. Now I'm just putting it right across the top there. Okay. Since I'm using lace. Now, if you were making an actual headband, you would want to make it about that wide because it's going to come in. It's going to come in and you don't want it sticking out very wide. But since it's lace, it's not going to be very wide. And I just want it sticking out a little bit at the top. Okay. Now let's scoot it over here. Now, I have a little bit of time here. I can adjust it. There. That's what it's going to look like at the top. Now, let's go to the bottom. We want it sticking out the same amount at the bottom. Come on. Okay, I need to wipe off my tip here. Okay, so it took 3 up there. I'm thinking it's going to take 3 down here. All right, so let's put that in there. Now, let's turn this over. And let's get these centered. And you want them sticking out the same amount. Get in there. Okay, now we're going to do our fabric. Okay, so you want your fabric covering the bottom of the lace. Oh, it needs to be centered. But it's a little bit too long. Okay. Right there. Well, come on. Did I cut you? Did I tear you too short? Come on. Surely not. Well, so we'll cut you another piece. You're going to see my head for just a second, you guys. Right there. Oh, I did. All right. Good thing I have another piece right here. Okay. I want you right there. Oops, get off of there. right there. Okay. All right, so the first place I'm going to glue is right through the middle, okay? I'm going to put my glue, let's close this up. I'm going to put my glue in the middle, and then I'm going to worry about the sides. Okay? So I'm going to put this in the middle. Okay, now before I put my fabric down, I'm going to smush this out because I don't want any you know, glue blobs coming through. Now, I'm going to make sure that this is centered where I want it. I want it right there, and then I'm going to push my fabric down. Now I'm using my fingers into the creases, and I'm going to come back for that in a second. I'm going to take this, and I'm going to run it right down the crease. Okay, right here. You need to make sure that it's into the crease of your book. Okay, see? When I close my book, it's in the crease. Now I'm going to take my glue and come up the sides. I'm going to come all the way up the sides. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to glue this down. I'm going to take my glue. I'm going to take it as close to the side as I can. And I'm going to run it up. Now, I'm not going to pull it real tight because I don't want to pull it out of that crease. Make sure you guys can see it. And then I'm going to take my hand now I'm going to take this, and I'm not pulling it out. I'm working it as I go. I just want to make sure it's down. But I also don't want big blobs. Okay? Now, if I have a little piece that I've missed, I'll come back and get it. Yeah, that's not a problem. I can come back and get it. Okay, now I'm going to do the same over here. Now, in a minute, I need to check where top is on my book. Okay, now I'm going to spread this side out. And I'm going to do the same on this side. I'm going to make sure I have this down in the book. And I'm going to come over and I'm going to lay this side down. Now, and I'm going to make sure, can you guys see in there? I'm making sure that this is in the crease, but I'm also making sure. Now, my bottom piece, see that little piece right there that's sticking out? I can come back and trim that. But I'm also not going to do it right this minute. I'll wait until after some of this dries. Now, I'm just putting a little teeny tiny bit on the fabric right there that I missed. Now, I'll take my little tiny scissors that I have. I have some little tiny ones that I use for like when I'm sewing on buttons and stuff. And I'll trim that little tiny piece right here. See how it's too long? That's where I'll trim that. But I'm going to let this dry first. That way I won't peel this off. So I need to let the rest of this dry, and then we'll trim that. Okay. So that's all we're going to do today. So I'm going to let you guys, if you're working along with me, I'm going to let you guys do that. And then you just have to let it sit, and you have to let it dry. Okay? No more, we can't do anything else with it. We have to let everything dry. We have to let everything just kind of sit in its place. And that's all that we can do right now. And then our next video, will be, we're going to make our hidden spine. And I'm going to show you how I do that. And then we're also going to start choosing our signatures. Now, don't lose your measurements that you made, because we're going to need those for our signatures. So don't lose anything that we've done so far. And when we come back, we're going to work on the rest of our book. So I want to thank you for joining me on our new adventure into this pretty little book. And I hope that you had fun today. And I hope that you're creating along with me. Oh, hold on, guys. I need a drink of water. I hope that you're creating along with me in your book, and that you have found a fun book that you want to do, and that you've decided that maybe you want to create a book with me, and you're going to go step by step. And if so, that is great. I'm so excited to hear that. So, if you have any questions or you have a problem, don't hesitate to email me or send me a comment below. And don't forget, you can like and you can share these videos. And I'm always welcome and open to them. And welcome to the 10 new subscribers that we have. I'm so happy that you've joined us, and I hope that you create a new book with us, because I think it'll be fun. It's going to be a slow process so that you can see how we do it. We're not going to rush. I'm going to show you step by step. So until I see you in part 2, where we start creating the rest of our book, till I see you then, ta-ta for now.